What is up, YouTube? So I'm going to do a video on the Talon. I do eventually want to do a video on this. I've been pretty bad with videos. That's the 69 step side that we pulled the motor, the trans, and most of the front end off. The motor's over there, the transmission's over there, but we'll get to this in another video. I am happy to say that the Talon is pretty much done. I will do an in-depth, better review on the installation of these side enclosures. These are the OEM Hondas, and we put the Inferno heater in it as well. So I'll do a more in-depth video on that, but I did want to go over a few things. And then since I have some miles on it, I wanted to go over my impressions on it, which I said I was going to do in a previous video. I do want to go over a few things that I also updated and did since the last video. I did put some weather stripping in here and under the doors to help seal it up. And then if you look down here, there's a transfer case boot off of the Jeep that helps seals up the trans tunnel. Also in the summertime, it helps keep the heat and dust out. And as you can see, there's the one louver for the Inferno heater. There's the other one, and then there's the other one down there. So this thing's pretty much complete. Everything I want done to it outside of tires. As I've covered in a previous video, these tires are not very good. Already had multiple sidewall punctures on that tire. So I do want to upgrade tires eventually on this, but and like I said, I will go over the heater installation probably this week, and the side enclosure installation. I mean, obviously the blower motor and all that stuff's under there, and then the louvers and all that stuff. It's actually pretty self-explanatory. The most difficult thing is bleeding the air out of the coolant system. So and I also wanted to go over the side enclosures in the heater when I have seat time in it. I mean, I had it out briefly just in the field out back. It does blow heat. It seals fairly well. There's a little bit of air gap through here, up here, but I might monkey around with it a little bit later on and see if I can raise that up a little bit. But I wanted to get some more seat time in it before I did a review on the heater and the side enclosures. That way you can give an honest review. So as I previously covered in my other videos, 2024 Honda Talon Live Valve 1000X model. In my previous videos, I went over all the other accessories I put on here. I'm waiting for one other accessory, and that is the trailing arm guards down there. Let's give you a brief little walk around on it. So I have about 180 miles on it. I had it out several times. The only negative thing I have is obviously the tires, which I covered in the other video of how terrible they are. So the things I really love about this thing is pretty much endless. It is a great machine. It has done everything I asked of it, and I've had zero issues with it. Obviously I haven't had it, for years or anything like that, but the DCT transmission is phenomenal. Very, very pleased with it, and honestly I don't drive it in manual too much. I leave it in automatic. It shifts when I need it to shift, and it does everything I need it to do without any complaints there. The Fox Live valve, also great. I usually run it in normal mode most of the time. I don't run it in sport mode too often, unless we're on some really open trails and I want to open it up. Same thing with, I don't run it in sport mode too much. We do a lot of trail riding, tight trails, things of that nature, and I've only used launch mode like twice. Don't really race it, don't really see a need to use it. It is kind of cool that it's there though. is a neat feature. I also have not done night riding with it. Probably won't till we go down to Hatfield and McCoy and do some outlaw trails. So I can't really say how the headlights are at night in the woods. I've had it out in the snow in the field out back, but there's not really obstacles and you don't really need light to run it in a field. So the comfort wise, it is a great machine. It rides phenomenal. I've had some seat time in other manufactured side by sides. Now they were older. Obviously, technology's come a long way, but this thing rides great. And coming from quads my whole life to something like this, it's the equivalent of, driving a Cadillac through the woods. The fuel economy is, again, it's a Honda thing. I always thought they could put bigger tanks on their four-wheelers. I do think they could put bigger tanks in here. I mean, you can run it pretty good around here all day, and you don't have to worry about it. But if you're going to put like 150, 200 miles on it in a day, you will probably need to fill the tank at least once. Functionality, I love the steering. It's pretty nimble. This is a 64-inch model. So I don't have any complaints with the turning. I mean, I've seen reviews on the R's, which are wider, that their turning radius was not as good as the X's. I don't know. I've never owned an R, but the turning radius is nice. I enjoy the power steering. To me, I think it's set up pretty perfect. I have this machine set up pretty much what I want, how I want it. The only other thing I don't care for now, if I put it in sport mode and stiffen the suspension up, it probably would not bottom out as much. The ground clearance, depending where you're riding and what terrain you're riding, could be a little better. Obviously, you can put bigger tires on it, but if you're going to run a square setup with all same tires, you need to run a wheel spacer or get the correct offset rims for it. That's the one con. The other con is I briefly covered it in another video. You're spending a lot of money on these machines, and then you get crazy into accessories. I mean, I have quite a lot of money in accessories, which I covered in the previous video. Skid plates. The factory Honda skid plates are terrible, and I don't understand. If you're spending that much money on a machine, obviously it's probably cost to keep the price down when you go to purchase it, but I just don't understand why they don't put better skid plates on it. So, I mean, that was one of the first things I did. I've heard stories of other people in towns having damage due to the factory skid plates. So that is the one thing. And then obviously I've covered over and over again, do it again, 6-ply tires. Not a fan. These are not great. I went through a mud hole. I got 2 punctures in the upper sidewall and then one down at the rim at the bead. So I had some special fix-a-flat stuff. It was enough to get me back to the trailer. I did get a new product. Really hope I don't have to use it, but obviously if you are in the off-road industry, you will have tire punctures. I did get it's called a glue tread. It's a tire plug and also a rubber sidewall patch. You patch pretty big slices in the sidewall. It uses like an adhesive glue, and you sand the area down, clean it, and then you put the glue on it, slap the piece of rubber on it, and it supposedly works wonders. It's pretty expensive, but Dirt Tracks TV, who does a lot of reviews on ATV products and UTV products, they swear by it. So I said, why not give it a chance? If it keeps me out riding for the day, then I'm pretty happy. So the tires and the skid plates are very poor in my opinion. And then again, it's a side-by-side, but there's other manufacturers that do a better job. The sealing of the talon, now obviously you can see here with the weather stripping, it seals pretty nice, and we ran it on the underside of the door. Didn't do it here yet, obviously, and riding it a little bit with the heater, I could feel some come in. It's not that bad. So that could be better. And then obviously where I dressed up in the where the shifter gate's at, that's terrible. If you have a Talon, it's a very cheap thing. You can order it on Amazon. You can get it off a Jeep. It's a transfer case boot. You trim the top and you put it in literally upside down, put your shifter gate over top of it, and it keeps the heat and the dust. Because if you ride in dusty conditions, it literally just sucks dust up, and then your coolant hoses run through there, and obviously heat comes up in the summer. So, and who wants to ride in a 110 degree side by side in the summer? So that's my complaint. I think they could have done a bit of a better job at sealing it. And then these enclosures do a good job. I gotta mess with the other one over there a little bit. I think I gotta move it down. I think it's up too high. There's a little bit of a gap on the other side over there, so I think I gotta loosen the clamps up, and I want to nuts around with this one a little bit to see if I can get it to seal a little better here. But I will briefly go over this. These are the OEMs. They're really freaking expensive. I get a deal at the dealership, so I get 15% off, and I had a gift card. But I think after taxes, they're like $950 or $982 for the OEM Honda side enclosures. The only other one I would go with is Spike. They make very nice side enclosures. The one reason why I really like these and Spikes is you have the ability, I don't need to reach in, I don't need any zippers. You can just outside door handle. It's awesome. The material here is pretty good. I don't think it's going to be too prone to ripping. Obviously, if you wipe it, because of the material, it's going to scuff and you're going to lose visibility out of it, but you're going to get that with no matter what you get. And the sealing of this is pretty decent. They have this that comes over to seal here. Obviously, there's a little bit of an air gap here. But all in all, I am very happy with the factory side enclosures. And the other thing that they could do a better job at, which I have foam in the other garage I want to put up where the roof meets the roll bar. There's some gaps there, and also gaps up in the front where the windshield does not butt all the way up. But I think if I do that and some weather stripping down there, it'll be good for my needs. I mean, like I said, I had it out as about 25 out, and with the heater on and without finishing the weatherproofing the Talon, whatever you want to call it, it was probably like 55 degrees in there. The only thing I'll say in short-term use with the heater is it takes a little while to get warm, and doesn't push a lot of heat at an idle, but if you're moving through the trails, it pushes plenty of heat in my opinion. And I will say, if you do run enclosures or even a windshield, because of where the rad's at in your coolant hoses, in the winter, if you hit water and it throws steam, it's going to fog your windshield up. And if you don't have a heater, it's going to be a miserable day because you got to wipe it off. At least with this, you can turn the louvers up and defrost the windshield. So I will recommend, especially if you're running enclosures, you should automatically run the heater just because of that. But trying to think. All in all, I'm very happy with the machine. I've had it on some pretty technical terrain. I've had it on some hill climbs, and the i4-wheel drive has done great. I haven't had it in deep snow yet. I know they make a Hess bypass for the i4-wheel drive. I've heard some things that in the snow it doesn't do that great, but for what I've ran it on in the rocky terrain and the technical terrain, it has done great. It's given me no problems. I haven't got stuck. Now, I'm not mud bogging it up to, really deep and stuff. I mean, I've had it in some decent mud, but it has done great. Like you said, my only complaint is the lack of ground clearance. I think Honda could run bigger tires if they chose to. I don't know what tires I'm going to run yet. I'll probably run 30s. I don't want to go overly big. I know people run 32s and bigger on these. I think if you run bigger tires, it wears and tears parts. more. My opinion, not a fact. And I think if you put wheel spacers on it, it moves the wheels out, which also puts more stress on some of the OEM components. Now, if you're putting new radius rods on it and A-arms and beefing everything up, do whatever you want. Or in general, it's your machine, do whatever you want. And then the only other thing I don't think I covered in the other videos, I put a battery tender charging port here. I didn't plug it back in from yesterday. I literally just put the enclosures and the heater on yesterday. But I usually keep this plugged in, keep the battery good and charged due to the DCT. You always want a good charged battery with the DCT transmission. That way it shifts and does everything it needs to do. But yeah, all in all, I'm very pleased with this machine. And then probably my last con is there's no rear bumper, and your front bumper's pretty pathetic. Not saying I really want to run into things, but that's not affording you a lot of protection. I mean, obviously Honda makes aftermarket bumpers, and so does every other ATV manufacturer. So, but all things considered, I like the machine. I think it looks sharp. I like the color scheme of it. I like all the accessories I put on it. I'm very pleased with how it performs. All in all, I'm happy with it. And you're getting the Honda reliability when you're getting it. So, I mean, that's my overview of having some seat time in the machine. I think the seats are very comfortable. Everything works as it should. I've had zero issues with it outside of the tire. And yeah, overall, I'm very pleased with it for what it is. I will say if you want to make it safe or make it yours, you'll go down the money pit of accessories. I have quite a few thousands of dollars of accessories in it, but like I said, it's pretty much done now. I have it the way I want it. The only other thing I'm going to do is tires. I don't know if I'm going to do rims or not yet, but probably closer to when we go down to Hatfield and McCoy. So the next video I'll drop in a couple days will be on the enclosures and the heater install. And then after I have some seat time with the enclosures and the heater in the cold, I'll give my review on how I think those work in the cold and all of that. And then for the other people that watch all the content on my channel, I will have to eventually do a 69 step-side Chevy video of what I'm doing with that and what I've done so far. So, hey, till next time, YouTube, thanks.